The patrol ship moved through empty space like a small fish in a dark ocean. Captain Yuna stood at the bridge window and watched the stars. They were far from any planet now. Far from any help if something went wrong. "Captain, I am picking up something strange," said Jisoo from her navigation console. She was young, barely 25, but she was the best navigator Yuna had ever worked with. Yuna walked over to her station. "What kind of strange?" "A signal. Very weak. Very old." Jisoo's fingers moved across the controls. "The computer says it is a human signal. But that is impossible. No human ships have ever come to the Outer Veil." Lieutenant Taiho looked up from his weapons console. He was a big man with a serious face. "Could be a trap. The Outer Veil is dead space. Nothing lives here. Nothing comes here." Yuna knew he was right to be careful. The hegemony, the alliance of alien races that ruled the galaxy, did not like surprises. And humans were not allowed to explore without permission. They were a conquered species. They followed orders. But something about this signal made Yuna curious. It felt like a voice calling from the darkness. A voice that had been waiting a very long time. "Show me the source," she said. Jisoo put the image on the main screen. At first, Yuna saw nothing but empty space. Then the computer enhanced the picture. And there it was, a ship. Massive. Dark. Drifting without power through the void. "By the ancestors," Taiho whispered. "That thing is huge." He was not wrong. The ship was at least 10 times larger than their patrol vessel. Its hull was black and covered with strange markings. Yuna could see weapon ports, hundreds of them, all silent and cold. This was not a cargo ship. This was not an explorer. This was a warship. "The design," Jisoo said slowly. "It is human. The computer confirms it. But the records say humans have never built anything this big." Yuna felt her heart beat faster. The hegemony taught that humans were a minor species. Weak, primitive, good only for simple labor and basic military service. But this ship told a different story. "Can you read the name?" she asked. Jisoo zoomed in on the hull. Letters appeared, written in an old style that Yuna almost could not recognize. But she could read them. Every human could read them. It was their language, their heritage. "HSS Prometheus," Jisoo read aloud. Taiho shook his head. "There's no ship called Prometheus in any database. I have checked. This ship does not exist." "And yet, there it is," Yuna said quietly. She made her decision quickly. "Some choices you make with your head. Some you make with your heart." This one came from somewhere deeper. From her blood. From her bones. "We are going aboard," she announced. Taiho stood up immediately. "Captain, we should report this to Overseer Vrel first. This is beyond our authority." Yuna turned to face him. Vrel is an alien bureaucrat who thinks humans are useful only for cleaning floors and fighting wars. "Do you really want to hand him something this important?" Taiho said nothing. They both knew the truth. If the hegemony found this ship first, humans would never know what was inside. The aliens would take it apart, study it, and bury any secrets it held. "Jisoo, bring us alongside," Yuna ordered. "Taiho, prepare a boarding team. Full suits. Full weapons." The approach took 30 minutes. As they got closer, the Prometheus seemed to grow larger and larger. Yuna could see now that the ship had been in battle. There were scars on the hull, holes where weapons had struck. But the main structure was intact. Someone had built this ship to last. The boarding team consisted of 6 people. Yuna led them personally. They entered through an emergency airlock on the ship's side. The door was old, but it opened when they touched it. As if it had been waiting. Inside, the ship was dark and cold. Their flashlights cut through the blackness. Yuna saw frozen corridors, sealed doors, and walls covered with writing she could not read. Everything was covered in ice crystals. The ship had been dead for a very long time. "No bodies," Taiho observed. "Where's the crew?" Before Yuna could answer, something happened. The emergency lights flickered to life. Red and dim, but working. The ship was waking up. Then a voice spoke. It came from everywhere at once, echoing through the frozen halls. The voice spoke in Korean, an ancient form that Yuna had only heard in old recordings. Identity confirmed. Human DNA detected. Awakening protocol initiated. The boarding team raised their weapons. Taiho moved to protect the captain. But Yuna held up her hand. She was not afraid. She was amazed. "Who are you?" She called out to the darkness. The voice answered. It sounded tired, old, but also somehow relieved. "I am the keeper. I am all that remains of the crew. I have been waiting for 800 years for humans to find this ship. I have a message for you. A truth that was hidden. A secret that was buried." Yuna stepped forward. Her boots crunched on the frozen floor. "Tell me," she said. The keeper paused. When it spoke again, the words changed everything. "You believe humanity is a minor species, weak, conquered. This is a lie. 800 years ago, humans ruled 1,000 worlds. We had fleets that made the stars tremble. We were not conquered. We were betrayed. We were nearly destroyed, but not completely. There are others, sleeping, waiting, and now that you have found me, it is time for them to wake." Yuna felt the weight of those words settle on her shoulders. Behind her, she heard Jisoo gasp. She heard Taiho curse under his breath. The universe had just become a very different place. The keeper led them deeper into the ship. The lights came on as they walked, section by section, as if the Prometheus was slowly remembering how to breathe. Yuna followed the voice through frozen corridors and past sealed chambers. Her team walked behind her in silence. No one knew what to say. They reached a large room at the heart of the ship. The walls were covered with screens, all dark except one. On that screen, a face appeared. It was a human man, maybe 50 years old, wearing a military uniform Yuna did not recognize. His eyes were tired but kind. "This is Admiral Donghae," the keeper explained. "He was my captain, my friend. He recorded this message before he died." The recording began to play. "If you are watching this, then humans still exist. That means we did not fail completely." The Admiral's voice was calm and steady. "I do not know how much time has passed. I do not know what lies they have told you about your history. So I will tell you the truth." Yuna stood perfectly still. Taiho moved closer to watch. Jisoo had tears in her eyes already. 800 years ago, humanity was one of the great powers of the galaxy. We had colonized over 1,000 worlds. Our ships traveled everywhere. We traded with dozens of alien species. We were not perfect, but we were free. The Admiral paused. His face showed old pain. Then the hegemony came. The screen showed images now. Cities burning. Ships exploding. Humans running and dying. Yuna felt sick. They called it the Integration War. They said we refused to join their alliance. That was a lie. We refused to become their slaves. So they decided to destroy us. The Admiral's voice grew hard. They attacked without warning. They burned our colonies. They killed billions of our people. It was genocide. Taiho made a sound like he had been punched. Yuna understood. Everything they had been taught was a lie. Their whole history was fake. "We fought back," the Admiral continued. "We fought for 10 years. But they were too many. In the end, we had only one choice left. We had to hide." The screen showed something new. Ships, Thousands of them gathered around a dark star. Massive vessels, bigger even than the Prometheus. They were not moving. We put our best people into cryogenic sleep. 12 billion humans, frozen in time, waiting for the day when they could wake and fight again. We hid them in the darkest corner of the galaxy, where no one would look. And we left guardians like me to wait, to remember, to keep the flame alive. The Admiral leaned closer to the camera. The hegemony thinks they won. They think humanity is broken. They are wrong. Find the sleepers. Wake them. And remind the galaxy that humans do not stay down forever. The recording ended. The screen went dark. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Jisoo asked the question they were all thinking. Is Earth still there? The Keeper answered. Yes, Earth is hidden behind a planetary shield. It has been waiting for 800 years. Waiting for the signal that it is safe to return. Yuna walked to the main console. Her hands were shaking. How do we wake the sleepers? There is a beacon aboard this ship. When activated, it will send a signal across the galaxy. The sleeper fleet will hear it. They will wake. And they will come. Taiho grabbed Yuna's arm. Captain, think about this. If we wake them, there will be war. The hegemony will not accept this. They will try to destroy us again. They already tried, Yuna said coldly. They killed billions of our people and made the survivors into servants. What more can they do? They can kill the humans who are alive now, Taiho argued. The colonies. Our families. Everyone we know. He was right. Yuna knew he was right. But she also knew something else. She knew what it felt like to bow her head to aliens who thought she was less than them. She knew what it felt like to hide her culture, her language, her pride. She had lived her whole life as a conquered person. Was that really living? A beeping sound interrupted her thoughts. Jisoo looked at her console with fear in her eyes. Captain, Overseer Vrel is calling. He wants to know why we have stopped moving. Yuna closed her eyes. She had to make a choice. Tell the hegemony what they found, or keep the secret and plan their next move. Tell him our engines had a small problem. Tell him we are fixing it. Jisoo nodded and sent the message. But they all knew the lie would not hold for long. Vrel was suspicious by nature. He would send someone to check. Keeper, Yuna said, show me this beacon. The AI led her to a small chamber near the bridge. In the center of the room stood a simple device. It looked like a metal pillar with lights running up and down its surface. It was not impressive to look at. But Yuna understood that this simple machine could change the fate of humanity. The beacon requires human authorization, the Keeper explained. You must place your hand on it and speak the activation code. I can give you the code, but I cannot make this choice for you. Yuna looked at the beacon. She thought about her parents, who had worked their whole lives in hegemony factories. She thought about her grandmother, who still whispered old Korean songs when she thought no one was listening. She thought about every human who had ever felt small and weak and forgotten. If I do this, she said slowly, there is no going back. No, the Keeper agreed. There is not. Taiho stepped forward. Captain, maybe we should wait. Think about this more. Plan better. But Jisoo spoke up for the first time. Her voice was quiet but strong. My grandmother used to tell me stories. She called them fairy tales. Stories about humans who sailed the stars. Stories about a great fleet that slept among the stars, waiting to save us. I thought she was just an old woman with dreams. Jisoo looked at Yuna. She was not dreaming. She was remembering. Yuna smiled. It was a sad smile, but also a brave one. Not today, she decided. Today we gather information. We learn everything the Keeper knows. We make copies of every record. And then we decide together what to do next. Taiho relaxed slightly. "That is wise, Captain." But as Yuna turned away from the beacon, she knew the truth. She had already made her choice. She just needed time to find the courage to act on it. Somewhere out there, 12 billion humans were sleeping. They had been waiting for 800 years. Soon, Yuna would wake them up. 3 days passed. Yuna and her crew worked without rest. They copied every record from the Prometheus. They learned about the old human civilization. They saw pictures of cities that no longer existed. They read names of heroes who had been forgotten. And with each passing hour, Yuna became more certain of what she had to do. But the hegemony was watching. Far away. In the great capital station of the hegemony, Overseer Vrel sat in his office and studied his reports. He was a tall creature with gray skin and 4 eyes. He had served the hegemony for 200 years. He knew when something was wrong. The human patrol ship had been silent for too long. Their engine problem story was a lie. Vrel could smell deception even across the vastness of space. He sent his report to the High Council. High Arbiter. Moreth read the report in his private chamber. He was the oldest member of the council. He remembered things that others had forgotten. When he saw the coordinates of the human patrol ship, his blood turned cold. The Outer Veil, near the old battle sites, where the last human warships had been destroyed 8 centuries ago. Moreth called an emergency meeting. The council chamber was vast and dark. 12 alien species sat at the great table. They ruled the galaxy together, though some had more power than others. They kept peace through fear. They maintained order through control. And they had one great secret that none of them ever spoke about. "We have a problem," Moreth announced. "A human patrol ship has found something in the Outer Veil, something that should not exist." The other council members shifted uneasily. They all knew what lay in the Outer Veil. They had all agreed to bury that truth forever. "Send ships to destroy whatever they found," one council member suggested. "Send ships to silence the humans who found it." Moreth nodded slowly. "We will. But there is a greater concern. If they found one ghost ship, there may be others. And if they have activated any communication systems." He did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. Everyone at the table understood. The sleepers. Moreth gave the order. 20 hegemony warships changed course toward the Outer Veil. Their orders were simple. Destroy the ghost ship. Kill the humans who found it. Leave no evidence. But the Keeper was old and wise. It had been watching for enemies for 800 years. It detected the approaching fleet before they came close. "Captain Yuna," the AI announced. "Hegemony warships are approaching. 20 vessels. They will arrive in 6 hours." Yuna stood on the bridge of the Prometheus. Her crew was gathered around her. They all looked scared. 20 warships against 1 ancient vessel and 1 small patrol craft. The odds were impossible. "Can we run?" Taiho asked. "No," Jisoo answered. "They are too fast. They will catch us before we can reach any safe zone." Yuna walked to the beacon chamber. Her crew followed. She stood before the metal pillar and placed her hand on its surface. It was warm, like living skin. "Keeper," she said, "if I activate this beacon, how long until the sleeper fleet wakes?" "The signal will travel instantly, but the awakening process takes time. The sleepers have been frozen for 8 centuries. Their bodies must be revived carefully. Their ships must be powered up. It will take approximately 72 hours before they can move." 72 hours. 3 days. The hegemony fleet would arrive in 6 hours. "We cannot survive that long," Taiho said quietly. Yuna turned to face her crew. She saw fear in their eyes, but she also saw something else. She saw pride. She saw defiance. She saw the fire that the hegemony had tried so hard to extinguish. "Listen to me," she said. "Our whole lives, we have been told that we are nothing. We have been told that our ancestors were weak, that we were conquered because we deserved to be conquered. That lie ends today." She pointed at the beacon. "This machine will wake 12 billion humans. 12 billion soldiers, scientists, engineers, and dreamers. They have ships. They have weapons. They have been waiting for this moment for 800 years. But we will not live to see it," Jisoo whispered. "Maybe not," Yuna admitted. "But our children will. Our grandchildren will. Every human in the galaxy will know that we were the ones who lit the spark. We were the ones who refused to stay silent." She looked at each of them in turn. "I will not force anyone. If you want to leave, take the patrol ship. Run. I will not blame you." No one moved. Taiho stepped forward. His face was hard, but his eyes were wet. "My grandmother told me stories too, about a great fleet that would save us. I thought she was crazy. Turns out she was the only sane person I ever knew." Jisoo nodded. "I am with you, Captain." One by one, the others agreed. Yuna smiled. It was a real smile, full of hope and sadness and love. She turned back to the beacon and pressed her hand against it firmly. "Keeper, give me the activation code." The AI spoke a sequence of numbers and words in ancient Korean. Yuna repeated them carefully. The beacon began to glow. The light grew brighter and brighter until it was almost blinding. Then it pulsed. Once, twice, 3 times, and a signal shot out into the darkness of space. It moved faster than light, faster than thought, carried by technology that the hegemony had never understood. It crossed the galaxy in seconds, reaching a dead star in the deepest corner of the universe. There, around that dark sun, 3,000 warships waited in silence. 12 billion humans slept in frozen chambers. They had been dreaming for 800 years. Now, at last, they began to wake. Why? Yuna felt the pulse travel through her body like electricity. She heard the keeper speak with something like joy in its voice. "Signal sent. Awakening protocol activated. The sleepers are waking, Captain. Humanity is rising again." Behind them, the hegemony fleet drew closer. In 6 hours, they would arrive. They would bring death and destruction. But they were already too late. The fire had been lit, and nothing in the universe could put it out. In the darkest corner of the galaxy, something stirred. The dead star gave no light. It had burned out long ago. But around it, hidden in the eternal night, the sleeper fleet waited. 3,000 warships hung in perfect formation. They had not moved for 8 centuries. Their crews slept in frozen chambers, dreaming of a home they might never see again. Then the signal arrived. Admiral Myray opened her eyes. For a moment, she did not know where she was. Her body felt strange and heavy. Her lungs burned with each breath. The last thing she remembered was lying down in the cryogenic chamber, saying goodbye to friends she expected never to see again. Now she was waking up. Around her, the revival chamber hummed with activity. Medical machines pumped warm fluids through her veins. A gentle voice told her to stay calm, to breathe slowly, to let her body remember how to live. It took an hour before she could stand. It took another hour before she could walk. But finally, Admiral Myray made her way to the bridge of her flagship, the HS Eternal Dawn. She was 60 years old when she went to sleep. She was still 60 years old now. But 800 years had passed. Everyone she had known outside the fleet was dead. Her parents, her friends, her old commanders. The whole world she grew up in had been destroyed. Yet somehow, against all odds, humans still existed. The signal proved it. Humans had found the beacon. Humans had activated it. And now, finally, it was time to wake up. "Admiral on the bridge," someone announced. Myray looked around. Her crew was gathering, one by one, as they recovered from the long sleep. They moved slowly, still weak, still confused. But they were alive, and they remembered their purpose. "Status report," Myray ordered. Her voice was rough from centuries of silence. Her first officer, a young woman named Hana, pulled up the displays. "All 3,000 ships are initiating revival protocols. Approximately 70% of the population has been successfully awakened. The others will follow within the next 48 hours. Casualties?" Hannah hesitated. "Some chambers failed over the centuries. We lost approximately 3% of our people." 3%. Almost 400 million humans who would never wake up. Myray closed her eyes for a moment. Then she pushed the grief aside. There would be time to mourn later. What about the signal? Where did it come from? Hannah displayed a star map. A single point blinked in the outer Veil region. The signal originated from the Prometheus Admiral, Captain Donghay's ship. Myray felt her heart tighten. Donghay had been her friend, her mentor. He had volunteered to stay behind, to guard the beacon while the fleet escaped to safety. He knew he would die. He did it anyway. Is there any communication from the Prometheus? Fragmentary data only. The beacon transmitted all stored records before it went silent. It appears that a human patrol crew discovered the ship. They activated the beacon, but Hana paused. Hegemony warships were approaching. We do not know if the crew survived. Myray stared at the map. Somewhere out there, a small crew of modern humans had risked everything to wake them up. They have probably died for it. Their sacrifice would not be forgotten. "Plot a course for the outer veil," she commanded. "All ships. Maximum speed." The fleet began to move. On the human colony worlds, strange things were happening. Older people suddenly stopped what they were doing and looked up at the sky. They felt something. A vibration. A whisper. Something deep in their blood that told them the universe was changing. "Commander." Subin was stationed on Colony 7 when she felt it. She was a soldier in the Hegemony military, trained since childhood to follow orders and obey her alien masters. But she had always felt that something was wrong, that humans were meant for more than serving. Now she understood why. Within hours, secret communications began spreading through the human colonies. Ancient codes that had been passed down through generations, hidden in songs and stories and prayers. The codes activated hidden networks. Resistance cells that had been sleeping for centuries suddenly woke up. Subin received a message from an old man named Hyunwoo. He was a farmer, nobody important, but he knew things. He had been waiting his whole life for this moment. "The fleet is coming," his message said. "Prepare the way." Subin did not fully understand, but she knew what she had to do. She began gathering weapons. She began contacting other humans in the military. She began to plan. Meanwhile, in the Outer Veil, the Hegemony fleet arrived at the Prometheus. Captain Yuna watched them come. 20 warships, armed with enough firepower to destroy a planet. Her crew stood beside her on the ancient bridge. They had made their peace. They were ready to die. "Captain," the keeper said, "I recommend evacuation. The Prometheus can provide enough cover for your patrol ship to escape." Yuna shook her head. "No, we stay together." Taiho put his hand on her shoulder. "It has been an honor, Captain." Jisoo smiled sadly. "My grandmother was right about everything. I wish I could tell her." The Hegemony ships opened fire. The Prometheus shuddered under the impact. Ancient shields flared to life, absorbing incredible damage. The old warship was built to last, but nothing could survive forever. Fires broke out. Systems began to fail. Yuna made a decision. "Keeper, can you transmit all remaining data to the sleeper fleet?" Yes, Captain. Beginning transmission now. Good. Yuna turned to her crew. Everyone, to the shuttle bay. Now. They ran through burning corridors and collapsing sections. The Prometheus was dying around them, but it was dying slowly, giving them time, protecting them until the end. They reached the shuttle bay just as the main power failed. Taiho got the shuttle engines running. Jusu plotted an escape route through the battle zone. Yuna was the last one aboard. Go, she ordered. The shuttle launched just as the Prometheus exploded. The ancient warship broke apart in a flash of light, taking 3 hegemony vessels with it. The remaining enemy ships scanned the debris field, looking for survivors, but Yuna's shuttle was already hidden among the wreckage, drifting silently, playing dead. No power. No signals. They will think we died with the ship, Taiho whispered. Yuna nodded. We wait. We survive. And when the sleeper fleet arrives, we join them. In the distance, 3 hegemony ships burned. 17 remained. They began to withdraw, satisfied that the threat had been eliminated. They were wrong. Across the galaxy, the sleeper fleet was accelerating. 3,000 warships, fully armed, crewed by billions of humans who remembered what the hegemony had done. And they were very, very angry. Admiral Myray stood on her bridge and watched the stars blur past. Her fleet was the largest military force humanity had ever assembled. It had been built for one purpose: revenge, justice, freedom. She opened a channel to all human colonies. Her voice traveled across the darkness of space, reaching every hidden radio and every secret network. This is Admiral Myray of the human sleeper fleet. 800 years ago, the hegemony tried to destroy us. They failed. We are coming. Hold fast. Fight back. Do not be afraid. She paused. Then she spoke the words that humans had been waiting centuries to hear. We are coming home. The sleeper fleet arrived at the threshold, the gateway to hegemony space. Ahead of them waited the largest alien armada ever assembled. 2,000 hegemony warships, gathered from every corner of the galaxy. They had come to stop the human advance. They had come to finish what they started 800 years ago. Admiral Myray stood on her bridge and looked at the enemy fleet. Behind her, 3,000 human warships waited for her command. On every ship, humans who had slept for 8 centuries were ready to fight, ready to die, ready to make the hegemony pay for what they had done. Open a channel, Myray ordered. All frequencies. I want them to hear this. Her communication officer nodded. Channel open, Admiral. Myray spoke clearly and calmly. This is Admiral Myray of the Human Defense Fleet. 800 years ago, you attacked our worlds without warning. You killed billions of our people. You burned our cities and enslaved our survivors. You tried to erase us from history. She paused. The entire galaxy was listening. You failed. We are still here. We remember what you did. And we have come to settle the debt. The hegemony fleet responded with weapons fire. The battle of the threshold began. Ships exploded on both sides. Energy beams cut through the darkness. Missiles streaked across the void. The battle was fierce and terrible. Thousands died in the first minute alone. But the human ships were built for this. They had been designed 800 years ago by engineers who knew they were building humanity's last hope. Every system was hardened. Every weapon was powerful. Every crew was determined, and they had something the hegemony did not have. They had rage. Sergeant Jung-ho was a young soldier when he went to sleep. He was still young now, but he had the memories of an old war. He remembered watching his home planet burn. He remembered saying goodbye to his family before boarding the cryogenic ship. He had been sleeping for 800 years, dreaming of revenge. Now he stood at his weapon station, firing at enemy ships, screaming with joy every time one exploded. The battle lasted for 3 hours. When it ended, the hegemony fleet was broken. 1,500 of their ships were destroyed or crippled. The rest were running away. The human fleet had lost 600 ships, but they had won. Myre looked at the burning debris and felt no joy, only grim satisfaction. This was just the beginning. "All ships, advance," she ordered. "We have colonies to liberate." Across the galaxy, the liberation began. On Colony 7, Commander Subin led a group of human soldiers against their hegemony masters. The aliens had weapons and technology, but the humans had numbers and determination. Street by street, building by building, they took back their world. Elder Hyunwoo walked through the fighting with a strange calm. He was over 80 years old, too old to carry a weapon. But he carried something more important. He carried the old songs, the old stories, the old prayers. As the battle raged, he sang, and humans who heard him felt their hearts grow stronger. On planet after planet, humans rose up. Some fights were easy, some were brutal, but the result was always the same. Freedom. 2 weeks after the Battle of the Threshold, Captain Yuna finally made contact with the sleeper fleet. Her shuttle had been hiding in an asteroid field, waiting for the right moment. When she saw the human warships arrive, she almost cried with relief. "This is Captain Yuna of the Hegemony Patrol Service, requesting permission to join the fleet." A voice answered. A woman's voice, calm and strong. "Captain Yuna, this is Admiral Myre. I have been hoping to meet you. You activated the beacon. You woke us up. Welcome to the fleet." Yuna and her crew were brought aboard the Eternal Dawn. They were treated like heroes. Every sleeper wanted to shake their hands, to thank them for the sacrifice they had made. But Yuna did not feel like a hero. She felt like someone who had done what needed to be done. She met Admiral Myra in a quiet room overlooking the stars. The Admiral was older than she expected, but her eyes were sharp and her voice was steady. "You gave us a future," Myra said. "How can we repay that?" Yuna thought for a moment. "End the war without becoming what they were. Show the galaxy that humans can be better." Myra smiled. "I was hoping you would say that." The war continued for 3 more months. But the outcome was never in doubt. The hegemony was falling apart. Their member species were abandoning them. Their fleets were destroyed. Their leaders were hiding. Finally, the human fleet reached the capital station. High Arbiter Morath surrendered without a fight. He was old and tired and knew that his time was over. They put him on trial. The whole galaxy watched as the evidence was presented. The genocide, the cover-up, the centuries of lies. Morath said nothing in his defense. There was nothing to say. He was convicted and sentenced to spend the rest of his life in prison. Some humans wanted him executed, but Myri refused. "We are not like them," she said. "We remember what was done to us, but we choose justice, not revenge." 1 month later, the human fleet approached Earth. The planetary shield had been up for 800 years. No one knew what waited underneath. The planet might be dead. It might be barren. It might be nothing but ruins. Admiral Myre stood on her bridge. Beside her stood Captain Yuna, Lieutenant Taiho, Navigator Jisoo, and hundreds of other humans. They watched as the shield flickered and then slowly began to lower. Earth appeared below them. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds drifting across the sky. It was alive. It was beautiful. It was home. A transmission came from the surface. It was a recorded message, left 8 centuries ago by people who hoped but could not be sure that anyone would ever hear it. "To whoever wakes us, welcome home. We kept the lights on. We never stopped believing you would return." Myre felt tears running down her face. She was not alone. All around her, humans were crying, laughing, holding each other. 800 years of pain and loss and hope had led to this moment. She opened the channel to the entire fleet. Her voice was thick with emotion, but her words were clear. All ships, this is Admiral Mayray. 800 years ago, we made a promise. We promised that we would survive. We promised that we would return. We promised that humanity would never be erased. She looked at Earth, the planet of their ancestors, waiting for them after all this time. Today, we keep that promise. Humanity has come home. The fleet began its descent. On the surface, automated systems that had been waiting for 800 years detected the approaching ships. Gardens that had been tended by machines began to prepare for visitors. Buildings that had been sealed opened their doors. The planet welcomed its children back. Sergeant Junho was on the first shuttle to land. He stepped onto the grass and fell to his knees. He had been born in space on a colony ship. He had never seen Earth, but somehow, in his blood and bones, he knew this was where he belonged. Captain Yuna walked beside Jisoo through the ruins of an ancient city. They found a wall covered with names. Millions of names. The people who had stayed behind to keep Earth alive, knowing they would never see the fleet return. They waited for us, Jisoo whispered. They believed in us. Yuna nodded. And now we are here. We will not waste their sacrifice. In the weeks that followed, humans began to rebuild. The sleepers and the colony humans worked together. It was not always easy. They had been separated for 8 centuries. They had different cultures, different experiences, different ways of seeing the world. But they were all human. And that was enough. Taiho became a diplomat. He traveled to other species, the ones who had not participated in the genocide, and built new alliances. Not based on fear, but on respect. Jisoo became an engineer. She designed new navigation systems that would connect human worlds across the galaxy. No human would ever be lost again. Admiral Mayray retired. She had done her duty. Now it was time for the next generation to lead. She spent her final years on Earth, walking through gardens and watching children play. She died peacefully, surrounded by people who loved her. And Captain Yuna? She became a teacher. She taught young humans about their history. The real history. The pain and the triumph. The loss and the return. She made sure no one would ever forget. The galaxy was changed forever. Humans were no longer slaves. They were no longer forgotten. They were a free people, masters of their own destiny, ready to face whatever the future might bring. And somewhere in the darkness of space, the ruins of the Prometheus still drifted. A memorial to the ship that had waited 800 years. A reminder that even in the darkest times, hope never dies. The story was over. But for humanity, the story was just beginning.